If we think about students on campus, they can stop in and ask their teacher after class, hey, I have a question on this, or I saw this TV show last night and it kind of reminds me of this, or Professor so-and-so talked about this and it kind of relates to this. The online students don't get that as in the same way or as much. They don't have that freedom to just say, hey, I kind of want to talk about this. So in using the video feedback, on some assignments, it allows me to sort of bring in some of those external concepts and explain the feedback a little bit more. So it's not so much just a right and wrong, which is a lot of times what we tend to do in the online environment, but instead do a little bit more of what we would have done with a student if we were face-to-face. So I sit and I just kind of chat with the student. I pretend they're in front of me and I think about what I would say if the student had come to my office and asked me a question. The students tend to like that feedback. It's a very different format for them to get feedback in. And even for on-campus students, when I choose to use the video, I'll go back into class on Tuesday and be like, hey, that was kind of cool. Like, we've never had somebody shoot us a video response. And there are just a bunch of things that are a lot easier to explain verbally than trying to type out in a Word document. And so sometimes I use the video to do that as well. I've been doing this now for about 3 years, and I'm using this mainly in the online environment. But consistently, when reviews come back from students, when we hold student panels, this is one of the features of my courses in particular that students call out that they really liked. That as they're asked, what would you like to see more of, what's going well, they actually say, we'd love to see the video feedback. So for instructors who are teaching online, I would say go for it, 100%. Students love it. For instructors who are teaching on campus, it's something you can do to supplement, and I would definitely say again that the times when it's been appropriate for me to do that for students, or just to explain something that was going to be hard to type in an email, it makes it a lot easier. It takes you a lot less time to actually get the concept out instead of trying to figure out how to type it out to make the student understand, and it maintains the personal connection that you would have had with that student had they asked you the question after class. So I'd say go for it.
Well, I use guest speakers because Platteville is a remote location, and I can get speakers to interact with my students in both the classroom and in my student organizations. So, for example, I have one he's a executive vice president at a major agency in Minneapolis, and I had him speak to my class on an online room through D2L, and then I was able to record that session for further classes and also to use in my online classes. Well, it brings a number of things into the classroom. These people are out doing the jobs every day, and they have that insight that's so important to support the theory in the classroom. So that's number one. Number two is I found it to be interesting. The students like it. They find it interesting to have guest speakers come in through a video. So it really helps to bring another tool for learning into the classroom. The students will get exposure to people that maybe they wouldn't see normally, or in the normal course of doing business. They get to see industry leaders that they bring a different perspective into the classroom that can be very valuable for a student, so they can see the actual application of the theories and the concepts, and they could actually learn from a practitioner who's actually doing it every day and sees the good and sometimes the bad of the projects. Well, I've had very positive feedback from the students on these use of these tools. They found them highly relevant and interesting, especially the one from the ad agency vice president from Minneapolis. This was an actual marketing program that many of them had seen on TV. It was the Tanks of Thanks for Senex program that's actually run in this trade area. And they really thought that was highly relevant, that they saw how the program was developed. They saw how it was thought through. They saw how the deliverables were actually produced, how it all fit together, and then actually saw the ads on TV. I think one of the things that we struggle with as trying to teach students is how does a theory relate to the application, and how are these theories and principles that we teach, how are they actually used, especially in my area in marketing. And what I have found is that this brings the subject matter alive, and it's also, the students find it very interesting that it's a different way of presenting, and also it makes it very real to the students. They can talk, these are real practitioners that are living the business every day, and I think it brings a certain amount of relevance to the subject matter.
We have the collaborative engineering program, and with the collaborative engineering program I have students at all sorts of locations who are trying to get information given to them in an asynchronous manner. So I thought, since that's the situation anyways, I can make very compact, information-packed videos that cover a lecture's worth of material in a very short amount of time, 10 to 15 minutes. I can cover a 52-minute lecture easily in that time period. Started out with software demonstrations. I saw there were some repeated questions that students were always having, and rather than answer the questions over and over again, what I decided to do was make something that they could pull up on their own time and get the answers when they needed them, so they could have timely responses. The thing I think the students get out of it is they have a very fast-paced, on-demand piece of information. Whenever they want to learn about any of the topics I cover, they can just go onto YouTube, click, and watch it. Now, if they need a review before an exam, it's there. Once they take care of all my talking to them in a video, when we come and have face-to-face time, that can be more interactive. You don't have to do that as me disseminating something. It can be more give and take, so it's a better learning environment. Doing the videos outside of class allows for us to have more question and answer time together, and they can hear other people's questions. I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages. In this environment where people are asking questions, they overhear other people asking the same questions, so they don't feel as bad about themselves. That's probably one of the biggest hindrances to ever asking a question, is assuming everybody else in the room gets this, except for me. But when they hear other people or see that there are people going around, we're helping each other, and a guy I thought was really smart over there has the same questions as I do. That girl who gets everything right, well, she still has questions. So with people, they see other people having questions, it's okay for them to ask questions, and it becomes a more active and I think a less hostile learning environment. Modern students aren't into reading books. They want on-demand, and they want short, fast-paced, high-impact delivery. I think the videos give that to them. They give exactly what the students want, when they want it, and I don't think there's a better way to do it.
Well, I only started doing the screencasts very recently. This was last semester. I was thinking that it would be good if there was some way that you could make a lecture available. For instance, if students are unable to get to class on a certain day, just giving them the PowerPoint really doesn't cut it, because as I keep telling them, there is far more to the lecture than just the PowerPoint. That's like the skeleton of the lecture. But if you haven't heard what goes with it, and you try to base all your learning just on the outline, you're going to miss an awful lot. One student told me she thought it was a really interesting idea, and to be able to listen to it, and of course being able to hear it multiple times. If you miss something when you're in class, then it's gone, but if you can play it back, then that's an advantage. You can make sure you haven't missed anything. You can feel less pressure with note-taking. Now that I know how to do it, it works just fine. There was a learning curve. When I first tried the technology, I needed somebody first to explain how to do it. It really is no problem. It's no harder than just putting things on D2L. I think student learning has changed in the last 20 years. I think the culture is increasingly going in a much more visual direction, from the written word more towards visual learning. And they also are incredibly technologically savvy, far more so than I am. So I would really hope that making available more videos like this to them would be beneficial to their learning, so as they say, they can see and hear, and so get both of those combined.
We've got a different generation entering our classroom right now. And the way that I learned in my college classrooms and the way that my colleagues learned in their college classrooms is not necessarily the best way, not only to present some of the material that we have available to us, but the technology has changed in a way that it makes it much easier for us to present things in a much more rich environment. And so I feel like the more that we're willing as facilitators of learning to change the way that we're doing things to better meet the needs of our students, the more that we'll be seen as one of the premier institutions to come to.